previous two speakers. First of all, thank you for having me here. I've done this a couple of times previously as well. The previous speakers, Mr. Sadhguru Madhavanan and Varma Pidani, has made my job quite easier. I may have to cross-section what they said interchangingly. It's common problems. Now, common problems. First, let me start with some common facts as well. In my view, website success is actually not okay. Now there's a competition here, BestWeb, but that's not the primary purpose of why you design a website. You have to meet the client's objective, client's expectation. Now, when you try to win a competition, whatever it may be, you have to keep in mind, don't avoid meeting the objective of the customer, because sometimes we have seen some common, as this I see as a common problem. As a judge who has been in this from its inception, we have seen many problems, and the competition also evolving into what is today. A lot of people try to introduce certain features, sometimes unnecessarily, and sometimes kill the purpose of a website. Purpose in the sense what the client expects. That is for the developers. I hope there are some site owners as well here or in online. For them, you have to make sure that you get a web developer meets your company's objective. Why you do that site? As Mr. Bhaktivinoda pointed out, why do you do that? What do you want to say? What do you represent? That is your face to the world. Now, we have seen a lot of people tend to miss that repeatedly, because that is not a technical aspect. I mean, it's about getting someone connected to the project from the client. Okay, we have SMEs, large corporates. Large corporates actually really do this very well, because they assign someone either from their marketing team and a very experienced person, and sometimes even the CEO get involved to spell them out what they really need from the site. But maybe the SMEs and the small organization may not have the ability to do that, or may not be interested in doing that. But as developers, you should see that is taken out from them and represent that on the website. Because end of the day, it's what serves the customer of that particular organization or the entity. It's nice to have certain features and all that, but if it doesn't serve the purpose of a would-be customer or a would-be user of that site, purpose is lost. While doing that, you can win about. That's what this competition is about. And this has been started to improve the standards while making and keeping the interest in the community to do better and better sites. I will also quickly go through this particular structure and highlight certain things which we see as common problems. Common problems means most of them are repeating. This has been said before. This has been, I mean, even Professor Dias, every time he speaks to the community, he mentions about certain things. I'm sure that he talks about these things in the university as well. But keep on doing that. Maybe in the interest of rushing to do a site, or maybe not having enough focus, budgetary constraints, various things, because the resources are expensive, the time utilization is expensive. So don't lose the purpose of creating the site. That is a common mistake that a lot of people do. Give it a little bit of thinking. If you feel like that your client is not really up to that, he doesn't know, sometimes this happens. The client really doesn't know what really to expect from the site. But they want to have a site because it's nice to have a site. You can say that I have this LK or whatever. But if you can provide a little bit of insight, not to the point that you annoy him and that thinking, giving him the expression that you know better than him, or you have a better objective than him from his side, or not to that point, but certain insight and have a discussion. Isn't it nice? And okay, try to get his real objective. Then you should be able to map it in your design, technically, aesthetically, and every other way. One big problem, common problem that we have seen, as the previous speaker also mentioned, is in the logo. I don't know why that large number of sites. Now this time I've been judging the category of e-commerce. Quite good award winnable type of sites have missed the logo. There's a rule. Rules has to be followed because there is a purpose why that it's a promotion of the entity plus improving the standard and improving the community at all together. So some just don't display it. You have a great site. I mean, there's a potential as we see, but we don't go beyond that. We just remove it. So it doesn't take much to include that. I mean, it can be resized. It can be at a place. It has to be somewhere. It doesn't have to be on the first page floating that it catches the eye first. And in the technical area, so these marks are kind of okay. You have 40 marks in there. It's pretty much done by the domain registry, and they use various tools and other techniques to arrive at certain points. So you have to give quite a focus on that. And I think every web developer who take parts in this competition, and also the others also, should be very familiar with this criteria and the guidelines, because it teaches you a lot in a simple way, not going into very much detail, but of course, like you can read and learn about that. But why these things are there is very important. The completeness, navigation, standards, and performance, which are key factors of a site's stability and to get the perception of a good site. And you can use any new technologies like serverless technologies where it serves fast in whatever devices and various things. But you have to keep a balance of everything. For one, don't lose the other. Then website design. Okay, yeah, there's a common mistake in some of the website design that we have seen is there's something called in websites which I have seen and I have identified, the boredom factor. It can look very nice. It has happened to some of my organization sites as well because of the lack of certain insights. Some sites can be looking very nice, very good at the first, second, third visit. But the subsequent visitors, especially the SME sites where they get a lot of information out than the corporate image, but a lot of information. I mean, the entire information portal about the company. So there are frequent visitors, e-commerce sites, frequent visitors. After a while, the customers get bored if your design, the landing page is not very good. Now, some people have a lot of white space. Now, don't waste space unless there's a really good purpose. Because what you see on the screen, the user should be able to determine. I mean, like this is we are trying to get into the customer's shoes when we judge in certain categories and to see that whether whether I should be staying here and go to somewhere else. When you come to a site, you have to quickly be able to determine what to do next, where to go, what to access, or you have a particular objective coming in there. How do I do that? If you just can't get a clue within few seconds what to do next in this site, you also have an idea, but you can't find out where the next link is. Sometimes there's no link, there's no text, but a nice image, some animation and all that. First time it's very nice. I mean, even the site owners could be proud of it. Okay, we have that. I mean, it represents our theme, whatever. This has happened to one of our key sites also, which is a leader in its market, one of our organizations, because the management didn't have that kind of an insight into that. So this is the combination of both. You have something, it can differ from type of site, like e-commerce. There can be a lot on the first page also. I mean, like if the user sees many things that you can go in, it's good because, okay, it's always good. I will tell you, it's always good to look at the popular and the site of trends. I mean, like, okay, if it's e-commerce, look at Amazon. You don't have to copy it one-to-one, but learn from it and do it like, because there is a reason, because they have the capacity and the capability to put millions of dollars into research how users behave and come to a site, and they do and change the sites accordingly. If it really works for them, and the groundwork and the invention of the wheel has already been done by them. So you just take the ideas from it and do it that way, because if it's really good site, if it's really, I mean, the flying site with so many hits and so many visitors and so many successful businesses, doing a very similar thing cannot go wrong for you and your client. And there it could be a CMS. I know there are certain categories. Okay, now we have a kind of an evaluation of CMSs, whether because it can introduce a lot of security problems. I'm not trying to be anyway technical here, which will be covered by the resource from the domain registry. But you should have right balance between the elements. I mean, the technicality and the practicality of a site. Now, if you are going through the page design, also the consistency. Now, a lot of websites that we see in across categories, there's no consistency. In terms of how the frames are designed, if it's frame-based one, or how the text is placed, the text sizes, the fonts and all that, there has to be uniformity, that otherwise the users, the would-be users will succumb to that boredom factor. That means you get bored with the site. Nobody wants to stay in a site which they feel bored. There is something like that. I mean, you may also have experience in. That's why people continuously revamp their sites. At least give a facelift or a cosmetic change, at least. But that should not be ideal if you're spending your time and money on that. I mean, it should not be merely a customer site. Now, we have seen some sites comes with a new face. We have certain concerns among the judges that, I mean, okay, next year, I mean, if you stand for a thing, what have they done if they had done new? It's just giving a facelift, but the same functionality, same structure, same thing, doesn't add that much of a value to the customers and also in the minds of, in these competitions concern, in the judges. So the judges actually comprise of, as Mr. Bakudini said, academia and non-academia. Now, it's actually a kind of a friendly debate and a battle between these two for technical elements and the user elements. Eventually, the judges will come to one common understanding and get to one single idea, but sometimes there's a lot of debates. So all aspects, that is good. I mean, that is done for a reason. I mean, all aspects are looked at. So a good mix of it. So the designer should have in mind that you have to satisfy both these judges. Now, like meeting the judge's expectation means very likely, pretty much the customer's expectation as well. So which serves the purpose of like meeting the client's objective, which is the primary purpose of doing a website. And under content, there's quantity and quality. Okay, a lot of text is sometimes given without a real purpose. User can get bored, or the most important key points can be missed in a sea of other information. So don't do that unless really necessary. If the customer wants to give a detailed description of his products or service, or if there's a specific advantage of a competitor, do that. But otherwise, have only the sufficient information. And another common mistake that we have seen is there are dead links all over the place in websites. Don't have anything in a site, if clickable object, where when you click it, it does nothing, goes nowhere. There's no other dissatisfying or a frustrating activity on a website for a web surfer than having clicking on a redundant or a dead link, which goes nowhere. Sometimes you repeatedly keeping, and it leads to the frustration, and of course it changes the overall perception of the site. So avoid that. That is a responsibility of, if you are managing a small organization site, the developer's responsibility. You may have undertaken the maintenance as well, or else if it's a large site, the person that you liaise with. The organizations also should be aware to have a responsible, a knowledgeable person who knows the company's purpose, and also some good insights into this area as well, just to serve the real purpose to the organization. and interaction. Okay, interaction I just talked about. I mean, when you land on the page, a lot of people, some sites, very nice sites, big sites, corporate sites, sometimes, or SME sites, you have to come there and wait a little to figure out what to do next, where to go next. Okay, when you do it a couple of times, you know, but it's not nice when you come. I mean, judges see it very as a problematic thing. I mean, some nice sites, big names, but you get less marks because judges are also like customers and clients, but they are also users of these sites. They represent that cross section. The interactions, privacy, and security. And if any website is creating a user account and getting users login and all, make sure that it's secure and users also feel that it's secure. Otherwise, you are just having that element in the website for no purpose. Nobody wants to give information if they don't feel like it's not secure. And also have a feedback. Say you do a form, submit it. And sometimes some sites, you just submit a form, you have no idea whether has it gone or what happened. Just give a feedback on the site if possible, then a follow-up email or a text or whatever means that you have chosen to do that. We see a lot of forms that the customers or the visitors can fill in for inquiries or questions or whatever. You don't get a feedback and you feel like, I mean, you wasted your time by just typing and spending that time to give the information, where you are seeking some information from the site, probably to obtain a service or to do business with that entity. Under the penalty points, now this minus 30 marks together. You can accumulate some good points in the technical areas, the design and all that. And for a completely unwanted thing, you can lose it. Now, okay, like he spoke about Google translation. If the site need to be multilingual, some are actually mandatory, the others, it's at the discretion of the client. Okay, for instance, we judge e-commerce category, not necessarily, because the category's major focus is Sri Lankan clients, and if the site developer and the site owner decided that he will be catering the client base in this particular language or this particular platform, so be it. So we are not going to judge them in that category, but it's not like the others. Okay, it's okay not to have multilingual, but if you decide to do so, do it well, because okay, if you have just a Google translation, and I think most of you know that how horrible it can be sometimes doing a Google translation for English to Tamil and English to Sinhala. Sometimes, especially technical sites, where you sell gadgets and PC parts and accessories and all that, some of the names are given horribly funny names. It's just there. Nobody really checks in. I don't know why. I mean, like, okay, if you visit through the site, I mean, generally you just do it and just take a look at it. I know some web developers do it and just look at some common section of text where, okay, reasonably good. Just leave it there. But there are certain places like categories, special product categories type of things, where title is given a pretty technical name in English, but translate into Sinhala or in a very funny way, which doesn't, whatever reason, the client side should not be laughable by the users. It's the developer's responsibility, I believe, and also the person that you liaise with to develop the response. You spend good money, companies have objectives. So don't, unless it's really necessary, don't unnecessarily try to put either multi-languages or any other elements into site where in the competition you lose marks. We see that is a very common problem repeatedly happening. Either there are links or there are sections which has no thing, or there are categories in our type of evaluation in categories where there are no products or not even, there were never ever one in there, and no even like hint, I mean, any expectation, it's just there. I mean, sometimes you are taken to a blank page and come back. You don't want to do that. Developers are also customers, one way or the other. Then content also, if you provide multiple will be make sure, as mentioned, don't give 2 paras of information in English and just 5 lines of information in Sinhala. Maybe summarize and all that, but it gives a quick perception that, okay, they're not taken and they don't care about that. So to prevent that feeling getting into the customers, if it's not relevant, if it's not necessary, don't do it. You won't be deducted or penalized for not doing that if it's not really necessary. But of course, the government side, you will be. Then the mobile, he talked about mobile network. It's like he mentioned the challenge of having your nice looking website on the desktop representing that on the mobile, because the form factor is very different. And sometimes it goes here and there, and never let anyone to, I mean, unless you need to see the details very seriously, but never let the customer to zoom the structure, zoom the overall view on a, unless for, I mean, very detailed, I mean, okay, they want to look at a picture, what it is. Other than that, the quick look at the page, never let them zoom it. So that's frustrating. You can do that. Technology is there, but little oversights make these mistakes and common problems. Now, these common problems, keep in mind, makes the difference between a gold and a silver, or make the difference between whether a gold is awarded or not. Now, we see every year, at least a couple of categories, the gold medals are not awarded because the judges at the final judging, we have a quite a interacting criteria with all the judges. And we discuss whether this site, though it had scored top marks in the category, whether it's worthy of gold, whether it's gold standard. We generally call it gold standard. Professor Dias has introduced that concept into the judges several years ago. So we debate on that and see, okay, though it has scored marks, whether it's gold worthiness. That worthiness can be sometimes the difference, not being it, is one of these common mistakes. You could have very easily avoided, or the client would have pointed out. But it's mostly developer's responsibility, because even though it's not under maintenance, for the clients or the developer's reputation's sake, make sure that your sites are visited quite often and point out. It depends on what kind of an arrangement that you have with the client to do the maintenance or make the corrections. But if it's need to be corrected, it should be corrected. It should be neat, straightforward, or clarity. Everything should be there. So if it's not there, point it to them. Or if on the other side, if you're the site owner, make sure that you have someone who take the responsibility to go through that and point it out to the developer and get it done. So it's a two-way thing, a collaborative exercise. And there are bonus points that you get. That depends on the categories. Okay, for e-commerce, if you're doing an e-commerce site, that's the category that I was charging. Use as much as possible the social media integration, because that's where you sell the products on your website, and that's where you have the discussions, Q&As, technical details, blogs, and various other things, which gives more information to the would-be customer, which is always beneficial because he can make a better informed decision, which applies to others also. Like if SME is trying to give all the information out about their company and on the, about its operations, its options, and everything. A large corporate site may not give it. I mean, they just want to tell who we are. Okay, we are there, who we are, and in a very structured way. For details, you have to have one-to-one interaction. That's their method. But SMEs try to give as much as information possible. So whatever way that you do it, make sure that you meet that objective by adjusting your content, your development according to the category. That is understanding your customer. Now we see some, it's of course either developers or the organization's choice that what category you apply for, sometimes we see, good sites come and land in certain categories because the initial application you have put it in the wrong, and which is capable of like winning an award in some other category. So make sure that, okay, what kind of a identity that you want to have, it may not necessarily to win an award. This process is a really good, encouraging process and a very valuable process. But at the same time, meeting the client expectation is a primary. Don't lose that, because sometimes you can get a website, you see it. Yeah, just always talk about, I think this site is supposed to be this, but it's not doing that. That is a put off at the initial stage. Then, of course, okay, we are also human beings. There are not to be biased as much as possible. But sometimes, even if you really like the site for the varied reasons, some of these common problems get in the way, which can be the difference between gold and silver, silver and bronze, or merit, or not even getting a merit. Now, our category awarded 11 merits this time out of 100 websites, because we identified that they need to be given. But some of the things, good ones, but some silly common mistakes, which we had to, though we personally like them, we had to opt it out. Because we are not doing justice. That's how the judges think generally. Especially most of the judges who are into this. New judges are also quickly getting into the same thinking pattern, because there is a vibe, and there is a kind of a non-express standard other than the criteria established here, how they do the judging, which they quickly get into. So I will not take much time. Additional features, we see a lot of additional features in sites which are not sometimes really necessary. Okay, like virtual workover. You have to, okay, it's nice to have it, but whether it's relevant to the category, maybe, okay, if it is done for an e-commerce site, you have to think, okay, is it really necessary? If it's necessary, it has to match with that particular objective. Why would a user take time and go through that and navigating through and see the actual look and feel of the store if it's not adding any value to his decision to buy something from the site? There's one example. And we have seen some educational sites which can be very relevant. But if it's not done properly, or if it's done inappropriately, it loses purpose. Then it becomes pointless. There's a lot of effort. But sometimes, if it's not really relevant, you may not get any points. Now, this area has kind of 60 marks. Multilingual accessibility for disabled, use the latest technologies, hard-coded websites, additional features and other, and included social media integration. Please include social media integration as much as possible, because that's the order of the day, kind of. And if the company or your client does not have much, encourage them to have such have accounts and activities on those platforms and incorporate them. It's nice because it takes the customer further to more better interaction, which, okay, purpose is most of the time is business, other than purely educational and personal sites. So it can take you there by additional means, which more people take part and less effort is made and all that. So some of these common mistakes, which though we highlight them as judges, we see they are very commonly repeated. But developers, it's primarily the developer's responsibility. Customers sometimes may want, okay, it's nice to have a feature like that, but you should also be able to have an evaluation of that. And okay, there's a way. You have to learn strategy, how to talk to a customer. Just don't flash it on their face saying that, okay, that's a dumb thing to do. No, not like that. But point it out, whether it could serve their objective or not. Because you will also develop yourself as developers, designers, when you get into that, and you will find more, and even the client would have more confidence in you. So try to avoid some of the common mistakes. And actually, this is not a forum to, it can go on, and it's a combination of what we all talked about. The standards and the judge's experience and the problems. So I hope that I touched upon a few of them with the time permission, and make sure that you try your best not to repeat these common problems. Thank you. Anything to add, Professor?
No, I mean, it's more than
Right. Okay.
Can I just add one thing?
Yeah.
Just one suggestion I forgot to tell you. Make sure that you all use Google Analytics. You can Google. No, you can actually Google Analytics just to see how your sites are kind of performing, right? I mean, you actually when you work for organizations under you actually forget that, right? Because maybe having maybe put it in your calendar or something like that. At least every week you at least look at the statistics, or ask one of your juniors to do it and share that with you, because very important. Then you will that give some feedback about your site, right? The people actually coming, which page they go to, how long they stay, something like that. That's a very good feedback. You can actually, revamp your site, right?
Yeah, so to do a regular review of it. Yeah,
it's kind of outside the competition, but at least doing on your business.
We have seen some developers actually undertaking this task for the customers, and it can be a part of maintenance contract.
Yeah.
And
point is, when a development arm is doing it for a third party, they don't have the ownership of that, right? They will just say, okay, there were people coming or they were people, but you can't relate it to your business.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important that you have somebody from your
organization
having looking at it and analyzing.
Yeah. But as a value-added service, the developer can take it to the customer and get them, peak them, so that they will respond it. Because generally, when you get the site up and running, they just get into a perception. Okay, we have done our sites, nice, yeah, they are all that. But in 6 months, it can get irrelevant, it can get outdated, and some new technology or a new way of doing sites will come in and like sweep the floor, and your one will look. So that's why people should continuously look at reviewing your sites, and if the client is not really putting his focus into that, you can just, you can say, can you just take a look at it? Are you happy with the site? And it can be taking any form depending on the site, depending on the organization, and depending on your client's expectation and the budget's constraint as well. Okay, so which is a fact. Thank you again.